Right, so we're going to talk about one-step equations today. Our goal in one-step equations is always to get the variable alone. And remember, the variable is the letter. So like the X or the Y or the A or the C, whatever letter, we want to get it by itself so we know what its real value is. So our answers will always look like, nothing will be with X like this. All right? In order to do that, we have to use the inverse or opposite operation to isolate the variable. And there's a little image off to the side right here. That's a balance or a scale. Just as a reminder that because it is an equation and it says that both sides are equal to each other, we have to keep it balanced. So this is an equation. So what we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other. So if we take away 4 from one side of the equal sign, we have to take away 4 from the other. All right, so we're going to start with this equation right here, x plus 13.5 equals negative 7. So you notice it is an addition problem because there's a plus sign. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, well, what's the opposite of addition? What's the opposite of adding? Subtracting. So we have to do the opposite. So we're going to subtract the constant. The constant, again, is that number that stands alone. So in this problem, what's the constant? The constant is that 13.5. So we're going to subtract the constant from both sides of the equal sign. All right, so to start out, I like to draw a line separating both sides of my equation. This is just a reminder that what I do to one side of that line, I have to do to the other. So we're going to subtract, like the directions say, subtract the constant from both sides of the equal sign, or both sides of the line. So then I think to myself, well, what's 13.5? A positive 13.5 minus 13.5. A positive and a negative of the same number cancel out. Right? So then all I have left on the left side is my x. So I have x equals, and then I'm going to compute negative 7 minus 13.5. They're both negative, so we're building together. So I should be combining negatives. So I should get negative 20.5. Now, in order to check, all you have to do is substitute what you got for x, so negative 20.5, back into the original equation. It's like what we've been doing. We've been evaluating expressions by plugging in values for variables. So we're going to plug in, this is my original, x plus 13.5 equals negative 7. We're going to plug in negative 20.5 since we know that that is x plus 13.5 and see what we get. Do we get negative 7? Is negative 20.5 plus 13.5. Calculate that in your calculators. Negative 20.5 plus 13.5 to see what you get. You should hopefully get negative 7. So we would say negative 7 equals negative 7. We know we got it correct. If we forgot a negative or something, and we did not get negative 7, like they say in the original equation, then we did something wrong. We need to go back and check our work again. All right, moving right along to subtraction. We notice the equation x minus 5 equals negative 2. It's subtracting. So we want to think the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add, which is the opposite of subtracting, the constant from both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line underneath my equal sign, reminding myself that what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So we'll follow the directions again. We're going to add the constant. In this case, the constant is negative 5. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. Okay, so think to yourself, what's negative 5 plus 5? Well, that would be 0. It would cancel out. So I've succeeded in getting x alone. because that was my goal, right, to get x alone. So x equals, and then you're going to compute negative 2 plus 5. That negative 2 plus 5. See what you get when you do negative 2 plus 5. You should get 3. So 3 would be your correct answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and check it. Original equation was x minus 5 equals negative 2. And we're going to plug in 3 for x to see what we get. What is 3 minus 5? Well, 3 minus 5 is negative 2, so negative 2 equals negative 2. We got it correct. Nice job. If you need to pause or need any clarification, feel free to do so if I'm going too fast. All right, the next one would be multiplication. So remember, I wrote a little note to you here. A coefficient and a variable. Coefficient is the negative 3. Variable is the x. When they're right next to each other, what operation are they doing? They are multiplying. So negative 3 times x, they are multiplying. We just don't have to write the sign anymore. So the opposite of multiplication would be division. So in order to solve negative 3x equals 57, we're going to have to divide both sides of the equal sign by the coefficient. Okay, so we have negative 3x equals 57. So I'm going to divide both sides by my coefficient. The coefficient is the number in front of the variable, or the copilot. So we're going to divide by negative 3 on this side. And if I do it on one side, remember it's an equation, we have to do it on the other. It should look identical. From here, I'm going to ask you, what is negative 3 divided by negative 3? And negative 3 divided by negative 3 should be a positive 1, or 1x. And this will be familiar from the proportions unit that we did when we were dividing to solve for x in our proportions. So we have x equals, this cancels out because negative 3 divided by negative 3 equals 1. So we have 1x, we don't have to write the 1 though, equals, then you're actually going to divide 57 divided by negative 3. When you divide that, write your answer on the paper. You should get negative 19. Okay, then we'll go ahead and check. We've got negative 3 times x equals 57. Negative 3, we're going to put in our x that we got, so negative 19, and see if it gets us 57. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 19, 57 equals 57. So we're good. Sometimes the check can confuse people, so if you have a question on it, just let me know. Okay, and there is one other type of multiplication problem that I want you to look at. So you could, and you will, run into the coefficient being a fraction. Okay, so you see 2/3 x, your coefficient is a fraction, equals negative 8. So in order to solve this problem, you have to still get x alone. All right, so when we have a fractional coefficient, what we have to do is multiply by the reciprocal. And remember, the reciprocal is just the inverse of the original fraction. So I have a reminder here, if you have 1/4, the reciprocal of that is 4/1. Because when we do that, we're multiplying straight across. 1/4, or 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 1 is 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we've succeeded in getting our x alone when we have a fractional coefficient. So let's take a look at 2/3 x equals negative 8. So we know that 2/3 and x are multiplying. So we need to multiply by the reciprocal in order to get x alone. Remember, we need to do this on both sides of our equal sign. Okay, so we should see it on both sides. From there, I'm going to take a look at what 3/2 times 2/3 is. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 divided by 6 would really just give me 1. So this is done. We've canceled out the fraction. We're left with x equals. Okay, so again, I'll write that over here. That was 3/2 times 2/3. When you multiply straight across, 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So we have 1x, but again, we don't write the 1. And on the other side, what number could you put under negative 8 in order to make that look like a fraction? We can put a 1 underneath negative 8. Okay, so we're going to again multiply straight across. We have negative 8 times 3. Go ahead and multiply that. You should get negative 24 divided by 1 times 2. So I have negative 24 over 2. Now we can simplify that answer because we know what negative 24 divided by 2 is. When I simplify, I get negative 12. And that would be my final answer. We can go ahead and do our check now. So we have 2/3 times negative 12. Let's see if it equals negative 8. Again, I can put a 1 underneath. I'm going to multiply straight across. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. 3 times 1 is 3. So what's negative 24 divided by 3? Well, it's negative 8, which matches our negative 8. Okay, so we got the right answer. Again, these are probably the most tricky ones with the coefficient being a fraction. So if you need to rewatch it, just feel free to. And the last one, division. When we see a fraction like x over 3.2, like we have right here, they're dividing. So the opposite of division would be multiplication. So we are going to multiply both sides of the equal sign by the denominator. That's our rule when we see a fraction, when we have x on the top by itself. So we're going to multiply by the denominator. Okay. So my denominator in this problem is 3.2, so I'm going to multiply by 3.2 on this side and by 3.2 on this side. Okay, so 3.2, basically this is saying 3.2 over 1 times 1 over 3.2, which we know from the last question just equals 1. So this cancels out, and I'm left with x equals, and then go ahead and compute negative 5 times 3.2. Once you do that, you should get negative 16. Okay, so the rule for division is I'm just going to multiply by the denominator on both sides. That's the only thing you have to do. And then when we check negative 16 divided by 3.2, we'll see if that gives us negative 5. Go ahead and divide in your calculator and negative 16 divided by 3.2. You should get negative 5. So negative 5 equals negative 5. So we got it correct. Okay. We have one more thing to do on the back, and then I'm going to let you try them on your own. All right. So the last part says, it's should hopefully say it on yours, important. Dump the doubles. So when you see two signs, a plus or a minus and a minus, I call those doubles. You must simplify the signs first before solving the equation. This is going to be very key. So let's start with the first one. Your doubles in this problem are x minus a negative 5 equals 2. So before you go and say, oh, I need to subtract or add because it's subtracting, we have to dump these two negatives. So two negatives make a positive, right? So we're going to rewrite it to say x plus 5 equals 2. Okay, then I can solve it like normal. We see it's an addition equation. What's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So in order to undo the addition, we have to subtract. Minus 5 on both sides. 5 minus 5 is 0. We're left with x equals 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. Okay, on the other hand, if you have a plus and a minus, those are also doubles. But when we get rid of them, they're not going to turn into a plus. A plus and a minus turn into a minus. X minus 6 equals negative 3. If I was going to solve that, okay, I have a negative 6. So in order to get x alone, I need to do the opposite of the negative 6, or take away 6. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and we're left with x equals positive 3. Okay? So a minus and a minus become a plus when we're subtracting two negatives, and a plus and a minus become a minus. All right, go ahead and do the rest on your own. Make sure you're looking at what the inverse operation is. I know sometimes they can be a little tricky, but I totally believe in you. Use your notes to your advantage. Good luck.